I'm Aaron Meyer. You're listening to the 19-9 Podcast. On this week's episode, we're talking 98-99 era Cincinnati Bearcats with Alex Meachum, who embodies the spirit of that team. No nonsense, hardworking, and loves the game.
My name is Alex Meachum.
I played basketball for the University of Cincinnati.
Yes, our insider Alex Meachum is back for more fun on a Friday night.
I'm saying it comes and goes quick. I'm saying you come in and before you know it, you'll be on your way out.
We also get into his experiences after college, starting Shining Stars AAU, playing a part in an Air Jordan 5 release, and much more.
Only Air Jordan sneakers. I was part of the inspiration and the design behind the Air Ben 23, number 5.
It's time to start the show.
Again, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all there. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Bring it into the
Welcome to the 19-9 Podcast. We've got a special guest this evening, Alex Meachum. He is a former Bearcat. We're going to talk Cincinnati Bearcats basketball this evening. Just get into it with him. He's been with the program basically his whole life, so I think offers a unique perspective as a former player, as a person that's connected to the program, and who still kind of represents them, talking about them on podcasts and various media platforms. So welcome to the program, Alex.
What's up, Aaron, man? I'm so excited to be here, man. You're talking Bearcats, all that. I just really love talking that stuff.
There's a Cincinnati in general, a lot to be excited about right now. You got football, basketball. The Bengals have won 2 games. So that's on the city on the rise.
Yeah, have you heard about the Cincinnati curse? Have you ever heard this before?
No, I
have you ever heard this?
Probably not.
Probably a lot of people outside of Ohio or Cincinnati have never heard this. But so the Bengals back in the day. I forget what year it was, but we're playing it, and I can't even remember who it is, but they tackled Bo Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
And ended his career.
Yeah, broke his hip, right?
Yes. And after that, no one in Cincinnati did well. It was like that everyone kind of associates that injury
I didn't know
to
that.
the Cincinnati curse. Yeah, wow. It's a big thing here. And so everyone always is like, Cincinnati teams find a way to lose or something crazy happens. Like, my teammate, Kenyon Martin, it was the year we were supposed to win a championship, breaks his leg, right? The one year the Bengals, Jeremy Hill fumbles it and loses the game, and the Bearcats and Xavier, it's just like over and over and over. So to see things where they are now with the Bearcat football team making the, Final Four of football was amazing. And the Bengals obviously, doing well. And I'm not a Bengals fan. My dad's a huge Bengals fan, but it's just great. It's just great for the city.
Wait, what are you?
You ready for this?
No. Yeah,
I'm an LA Rams fan.
LA Rams.
And they won today.
They did.
Check this out, Aaron. The Bengals, the 49ers, and the Rams all won their games the exact same way.
Crazy.
Walk-off field goals.
That is crazy. I know.
Like if I have a young son right now, he's practicing field goals.
No,
Get outside and go practice field goals.
I love it. Yeah, no doubt about it. That's the way to get into the game. Don't have to get hit either. As basketball players, that's an easy thing for to think about. I didn't want to get hit. That's why I didn't play football.
Oh, no question. Are you a Colts fan?
No, I'm not. I've got my Bengals cup here. I actually grew up a little bit in Covington.
You're a Bengals fan?
Yeah, Covington, Kentucky. So
did you really?
Yeah. So right across
over
the river. Yep. So
nice.
Reds and Bengals fan, and
big Reds fan here.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So let's circle back to basketball and give us just your origin story. We like to ask just kind of how people got into basketball. Like what got your hooks into basketball?
So my older brother, Tony, he's 7 years older than me. I used to idolize everything he did. I did. He started playing tennis. I played tennis. And it was just one of those things like, whatever he was listening to, Run DMC. I started listening to Run DMC. That was the first record I ever had. Nice. So, well, what I noticed was he had a passion for basketball. And I was like, you know what? I really love this sport as well. It wasn't just because my brother was playing. I really enjoyed playing basketball. It was just something about it. And so my mother and father built a court in the backyard, and I would go out there and practice every day. And I tell you, and I try to pass this along to a lot of parents, and that is, it's always great to let your kids dream big dreams, visualize success, and just whatever grandiose thing it is, let them live in that world. And I would go in the backyard, and I swear, I would act like at 9 years old, I was playing for the Cincinnati Bearcats, and I was hitting the game-winning shot. And I would come in and tell my parents, I just hit the game-winning shot for the Bearcats. And they would go, oh, great, that's awesome. And that was my dream. So by just practicing and shooting around a lot, I just found a passion for the game. And no other sport really clicked with me. I was terrible at baseball. Soccer was the most boring thing for me as a kid. I just, my attention span wasn't good for soccer, and football, I was just too soft. I just didn't want to get hit. Yeah. It's too cold outside. Yeah. And basketball was the perfect thing for me. And then I'll tell you what else, Aaron, happened. I had a coach named Willie C. Jackson, and I played on a team here in Cincinnati, right off Reading Road. It was called Bond Pad. And this coach just gave me a tremendous amount of confidence. He said to me one day, I'll never forget this, kind of pulled me aside, and he goes, you know why I yell at you a lot? Because I think you have a lot of potential. And I'm going to tell you what, that really changed, I think, my trajectory in basketball. I just was like, you know what? If Coach Jackson says he's coached a lot of really good players, if he thinks I have potential, then he's right. And I'm not going to let him down. So that's how I fell in love with the game, between my brother, the backyard hoop, and Coach Willie C. Jackson. It was on from there. Okay,
I got to ask you about the backyard hoop, because that one hit for me. I was watching some of the YouTube videos you've got up on, I think it's One Shining Media. Is that the YouTube channel?
Yeah, Shine One Media.
Shine One Media. Yeah. Yep. So I've got you're talking about your backyard hoop and the uniqueness of it. Even like the defenders, the walls, the defender. I kind of wanted to get your perspective, because you're working with young people still. Like, do you think that there is something? There's so much access, I feel like, to gyms now. There's like a uniqueness to my game. There's still like a spot on the floor that I shoot from, and I'm almost always more accurate from there, just because the way my driveway was shaped. I shot from there more because otherwise I had to contend with like the tree and some other elements.
So, okay, I got a story with that.
Okay.
You're 100% correct. And so I have an AAU basketball program, Shining Star Sports, and I have over 30 AAU teams and have kids from all over the greater Cincinnati area. And when we first started our program, probably in year 2, I was actually coaching. I don't coach anymore. I just kind of oversee everything, but I was coaching. And we had a very average team, but a lot of great kids. I really enjoyed coaching these kids. And actually only one kid was a starter on his high school team. And so we had a kid on our team, and he was probably like the 8th guy off the bench at his high school. And so we're at this tournament, and I run this play, and I decide to put him in the corner. And I said, hey, if you're open in the corner and they don't guard you, shoot it. So we run the play, and he makes the corner shot. And I was like, okay, cool. Second half, we run it again. He makes it again. I was like, okay. The next day, we do the same thing. When I tell you, he would not miss from the corner. So it became a running joke, like the corner spot. So we're probably 4 tournaments deep, and it's just, we just laugh at that. He's just going to hit this corner shot. It's money. Yeah. And the tournament's over. When the 4th tournament's over, and I have to drive, all the kids home, because, some of them just don't have rides. And this kid in particular wasn't from a great situation, but so I have to take him to his house, and I have like 3 kids in the car with me. So we're driving to his house, and we pull up to his house. And we all go, holy moly, this is why he makes it. So he has a driveway that's super thin, right? It's like that. No, there's no car in the garage. Yeah. Okay. And the basketball hoop is pointed this way. So he can only
That's
take
it. Just
baseline jumpers.
Just corner threes.
And we all pull up and we're like, this is
it.
why. And we're like, why didn't you tell us this the whole time? And he's just like, man. So that's back.
He go to the league. He go to the league with that now.
Bro, the Grizzlies should take him,
right?
Put him in a corner and just let him shoot. But I think the kids today, so they have so much access to gyms and perfect environments now to be successful, and that's good. Whereas I feel like when I grew up, we didn't have access to facilities like they do now. We were in the streets playing, and we were in the backyard, and you had to navigate through conditions. Like you go play in the streets, you're gonna have to dribble around puddles, potholes. The rims are double rim. They've got, you remember this back in the day, they were, chain nets, and sometimes the nets were super, super thick. And you had to really adjust your game. And I think, the biggest thing I tell people, you have to, battle through different adversity. And I think that really helped me out. But some of these kids, I tell them, I say, you got it good, man. You're in a good gym with a floor that's like, not dusty or
someone mopped it.
Yeah, I'm like, man, you saw the YouTube video, man. That floor or the ground in my backyard back then. You would like if you would cross over, like you and the dude are falling over, like both you. It's so slippery. So
my driveway went to gravel, kind of towards the bottom, so you had to try to get there before you hit the gravel. If you're getting your shot, because you're 1 foot like slide out in the gravel. Yeah.
Oh, that's too good.
Pretty
that's
great.
Too good.
Yeah, tell me a little more about playground basketball, because that was the other thing I wanted to ask you. We love hearing playground stories, and there was one, the place you played, I was dying. Even the name of it, I was like, oh my
Sugar
gosh. Yes.
Hey everybody, it's your old buddy Cashew. Today's adventure brings us to Cincinnati, Ohio, to a really unique restaurant. And in fact, I would say it is a hidden gem. It is the Sugar and Spice Restaurant. For drinks, you can get milkshakes, cocktails, or beer, White Claw, and Red Bull. This is so cool.
Bro,
I got to get him talking about this.
Legendary.
How did you find this place? Like, how old were you when you started playing there? What was it like?
Yeah, so in the 80s, like if you grew up in the 80s and 90s in Cincinnati, like Sugar and Spice courts were one of the top places you can go and play. And it sat like in this valley. And right next to it is this, there's a golf course, but you can't see the golf course. But so the neighborhood I grew up in, we used to like run through the golf course, run down the hill to the court. All the top players, in the city would come to the court. And so the restaurant next to it is called Sugar and Spice. That's how it got its name. But the funny part
when I heard that, I'm like, man, I don't know. Well, how to get this name? It sounds a little darker.
Like, Spice. Yeah. So what's going on? Is that a strip club? But across the street was a drive-through where you can, pull up and get, pop and beer and all that stuff. It's like a little drive-through thing, and which was the worst thing that could be next to this basketball court, because everybody went over and got, all the older people got beer, so beer's laying everywhere. But I'm gonna tell you what, and I tell people this story all the time. Everyone from the inner city came to these courts, and when I say there were some tough customers there, man, like from the hood. I started going down there when I was around like maybe 11 is when I was allowed to go down there. I had to sit on the like hill and watch, because I wasn't old enough to play, right? But when I was sitting on the hill, there would be guns, there would be boom boxes, and 40 ounces. I'm not making this up.
I believe you.
And I'm like, but I'm gonna tell you what, not once did anything ever happen to me down there. No fights, nobody messed with me. It was all love, because I think myself and there were a couple other guys that played down there that were younger. I think those guys saw a lot of potential, and they wanted to kind of help us. And they were like, man, these guys have a chance to go play. We need to really help them. So I developed a lot of confidence. I come down one time and I pass up on a shot, and the guy I was playing with, Money Station was his nickname. I don't even know his real name.
Oh my!
His name was Money Station. He did not miss.
Oh my gosh.
And he cussed me out. I mean, cussed me out and said, if you don't shoot it again, I'm going to bust you up. And I came down next time and I shot it and I missed it. But he applauded me. He was like, at least you took it this time. Next time you're going to make it. And sure enough, I made it next time. And that's where I first really developed that confidence that I needed. But without street ball, man, I wouldn't have had that, man. I got my swag from street ball. I used to, watch the guys play and kind of steal their, everything was.
Did you get a nickname?
I didn't out there when I was playing street ball. I didn't have a nickname until I got a little bit older. It was Microwave, but
okay, that's a good one.
It was like Vinnie Johnson who played for the Detroit Pistons. So he would remember Vinnie used to come off the bench and score real quick, and I used to come off the bench and just fire it up.
Ready
so I was Microwave Meachum.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's circle back and talk a little Bearcats, that 97 to 99 era. You got Huggins there. You mentioned Jordan Brand kind of coming on board, which is kind of the beginning of a different era, I feel like, in basketball. The way that they, Iverson is in the NBA at that point, and it just is this shift, I think, towards popular culture in basketball, for a lack of a better term. And I think the Bearcats really rode that wave and helped to propel it even further upwards. So let's just start out. What was it in general? What was it like to be a part of the program? And then if you want to circle back and tell us how you got on the program, because you're a walk-on, you mentioned. So how'd you end up on the team?
Yeah, it was a dream come true. Play for the Bearcats. Like I told you about that basketball court in the backyard, I dream about hitting that game-winning shot for the Bearcats at 9 years old. So then, to make it was like nearly impossible.
Yeah.
But so the process to making that happen, it kind of happened by accident, because most players that go on and play college, have great basketball careers in high school. They get recruited, or they're a preferred walk-on, or at least they have a good high school career and they go on to play college. Whereas in my case, Aaron, I had a very rocky up and down high school career. I only played one full season of high school basketball. And I dealt with knee injury. I dealt with academic problem. I quit on a coach. So I had all these different issues. But what happened was I developed this chip on my shoulder. I played with guys, either with or against guys that were at that time way more talented than me, way more accomplished. But I felt like deep down inside that I could be just as good as them. And they were going off to play college basketball all throughout Ohio and Kentucky. And I was like the only one that didn't. Because obviously I didn't really warrant the right to with not having a great resume. So I go to UC, University of Cincinnati, as a student my first year. And at the time, the Bearcats are number one in the country. Antonio Wingfield, Damon Flint. I mean, I can go on and on with all these great players.
You can keep going. I love hearing who like triggers the fun memories of watching those teams too. They were just so much fun. Like you said, they had swag and style and just played with an energy. And of course, Huggins just brings his own kind of style and charisma to the sidelines too, just strutting along.
No
barrel
question.
chest.
No question. And so I wanted to play back when I was 9 years old, and Bearcat basketball wasn't great back then. So here I am wanting to play for the Bearcats.
Now they're number one.
and now I have it, like I'm to the age where I can, and they've got the number one recruiting class. Like, Danny Fortson, one of the most decorated Bearcats of all time. I'm like, I've got to make this happen. So I'm on campus one day, and remember, I'm just a student, and I'm walking through campus, and I'm like, I want to be a walk-on. Like, I've got to make this happen. And I'm literally walking to my apartment, and this guy comes walking by me, and we just go, boom. And he was a walk-on. And so I stop him. His name is Jerome Gray. And I said, Jerome, hey, I want to be a walk-on next year. I know you're leaving. And do you think you could help me? And he was like, give me your number. And he's like, here's my number. And he goes, if you're really serious about it, give me a call.
So wait, you didn't know him? Did you know him or at all?
Just I did.
Okay.
I did know Jerome. So it wasn't like I was walking up on a random guy.
Right.
However, he's from Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
He had originally committed to Miami Oxford. And then the coach there, Joby Wright, left and went to Wyoming to be the coach. So when he left, Jerome came to Cincinnati as a preferred walk-on. So Jerome said, call me. So I call him, and Jerome goes, hey, we're going to start working out tonight. And he goes, meet me at midnight.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a true story. I meet him at midnight. And he goes, I need you to get access to a gym. And I did. I had keys to one of the high school gyms here locally. And we'd go in there at all hours and just work. And he was like, I'm going to physically get you as ready as possible. But more importantly, we've mentally got to get you ready. Because he's like, the mental grind is way, way tougher than the physical. So he's like, it's 90-10, 90%, 10%. So we prepared for months and months. And then finally the opportunity came. You'll like this story. The opportunity came for me to sit in Bob Huggins' office and ask him for the opportunity to be a walk-on. So I love telling this story. So Jerome was prepping me, right? And I'm writing all these notes down on a note card. Like, this is what I'm going to say to Hugs.
Yeah.
And he and I practiced it.
Running it over in my head.
Aaron, we went through it like 8 times. He's throwing all kind of stuff back at me. And then he goes, you're ready. Okay. So I got all these note cards. Go home. One more time, I look through them. Wake up. Go to Hugs' office at noon the next day. Walk into Hugs' office. Now it's dark, right? His office was always kind of a little dark. He had this like black carpet, and it was like that thick carpet from the 90s. So it was like you could trip walking on it.
Yeah. Don't wear your slides. You'll be tripping for sure. Yeah.
Oh, your slides would disappear in the carpet. He had this dark cherry wood furniture.
Oh, God.
And he's like sitting in his chair, right? And his chair is like, I swear it's elevated. And then I sit in his chair, and it's like a beanbag. It's sinking it. And I'm like looking at this monstrous figure, right? Yeah. But this is what happened. I'm a huge, huge Michael Jordan fan. I love Michael Jordan. And I'm sitting down. I'm getting ready. I'm like, okay, all that stuff you practiced, all the note cards, here we go. And I look to my left, and there's a big frame picture of Michael Jordan and Bob Huggins together. And Michael Jordan has his arms around Hugs, just smiling. And I'm telling you, my heart just started going boom, boom. That picture made me so nervous because Jordan's my idol. Yeah. And here he is, like hugging. And I'm like, so I look at Hugs, and I'm like, so Huggins goes, how can I help you? Aaron, everything I wrote on my note card.
It's gone.
I forgot. And so I learned a very valuable
Michael
lesson.
Jordan, that's all I have to say. Yeah.
I learned a very valuable lesson that day, and that was sometimes you just got to speak from your heart.
Yeah.
Throw the script out the window.
Yeah.
And I did. I just said, Hugs, this is my story, and this is why I want to walk on. This is how I can help you. This is how you can help me. And he gave me an opportunity, and I'm very thankful for that.
That's great. Telling that, it really does seem to fit, because I always view Huggins as kind of a, not totally counterculture, but he always seemed like a bit of an outsider in the era that he was in. Like, would take guys that maybe didn't fit the quote unquote typical college basketball player. Just he wanted a little bit of the attitude and a little bit of the feistiness that other coaches maybe weren't looking for, because that fit his brand and his personality.
And Bob Huggins has won the basketball game for the Cincinnati Bearcats in one of the more miraculous games.
Bob Huggins preaching to the truth, spreading the word, according to Bobbin.
No question. And I think a large part of that comes to when he took the job, he couldn't compete against some of these other schools that were bigger, getting certain players. So he's like, okay, where do I fit in this landscape? How can I find not I don't say loopholes the right word, but looking for certain players that kind of fit the brand I'm trying to build. And he says, okay, if we're not going to be the most skilled and get all the McDonald's All-Americans, we're going to have the toughest dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So he started grabbing these tough dudes from around, the country, JUCO guys.
Yeah.
And then he's got one of the best weight training staffs in America, Mickey Marotti. We used to call it Bodies by Marotti. And he told Mickey, he says, I want you to make these guys football players on the court. And he goes, we are physically going to beat teams down. Guys that are more skilled, we're just going to be stronger. We're just going to physically wear them down. And that was the brand at the start. And obviously, through the success with that, then he started getting in more of the McDonald's All-Americans, the Damon Flints, the Danny Fortsons, the D'Antonio Wingfields, the Kenny Satterfields, Dermar Johnsons, blah, blah, blah. I can go on and on.
All right.
But that didn't happen day one. He had to start with the Andre Tates, the Lou Banks, Lavertus Robinsons. Like, those were the guys that kind of were the building block of what we saw later on, that everybody recognizes as the brand of Bearcat basketball. And if you think about it, it's 2022, and the Bearcats play Temple, I think, this coming week.
Yeah.
And everyone will look at the Bearcats on the court and say they should be tough. They're, rooted in tough defense. That started way back with Hugs when he first got here in '89 or, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's interesting to have that big of an effect, kind of legacy, even after you're gone. But he really was that kind of force of personality on the campus. Well, give me, I'm sure you got a million stories from that era, but give me like one or two that really just stand out to you about being a part of the team. And I wanted to see what was your role like on the team, because I always think about the walk-on guys and seeing them on the bench. And I knew some of them when I was at IU, and you do end up playing a real like role in your roommates with the guys who are getting playing time. You're interacting with them all the time. So you end up being kind of a, I don't know, like mentally you're just helping out in ways too, not just in practice, the different ways you can contribute to the team.
Yeah. So my role, I think, changed over my time there. So when I first got there, I had to fight through a lot of adversity, because here I am, like I said, my resume is pretty much blank. So I'm coming in here and they're like, who is this dude? And, I kind of
must have had all the note cards when he talked to Huggins.
It was, my first year was very, very tough. And I'd be lying if I said there weren't moments that I just didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to quit. But I knew, like, I'm at my dream place. I can't leave. And I had to really fight through a lot of things. And I think my role changed in that I went from a guy who wasn't supposed to be there to a guy who was used as an example. So it's like, Hugs could use me as an example of, hey, why can't you do like this guy here? He's working his ass off. He's fighting through all this adversity. He's less talented than all you guys. So I kind of became that figure that he could use. And I kind of relished that role. I enjoyed having that role. I understood the entire time, I was at UC, that I would never be an integral part, like minutes wise or statistics wise. I was going to be a practice guy. I was going to be a good person and guy walking around campus that talked the brand up and made people want to come to Bearcat games. And so, I accepted that role and loved it. I wasn't worried about making the shots or playing a lot. I loved being a part of it.
So what about those teams do you remember the most, or do you get asked about the most? Because I know, I'm sure, again, I've had you on here to talk about the Bearcats from that era, but just in general. But what's the first question they've got for you about those teams, or what's the first story that comes to mind for you?
I get asked a lot about how crazy was Bob Huggins, and then what was it like, playing with Kenyon Martin. And for a while I was his roommate on the road. Okay. And, what were those conversations like? I get asked that a lot. Hugs was crazy. He was demanding. he was, I think when I say he was crazy, I mean that because the players, a lot of guys I played with are crazy, and Hugs knew he had to be crazier. So these guys will look at him like, this guy's crazier than me. Yeah. I mean, think about it. We had guys
That's
like
hilarious.
Ruben Patterson,
The Kobe
Mel
stopper.
Levitt, the Kobe stopper, right? Mel Levitt. I mean, roots from the hood, man.
Yeah.
And Hugs was like, I don't care where you from, blah blah blah. I'm coming right. And I think he gained a lot of guys' respect right off the bat, and not backing down from any of those guys. Hugs would come at you. He would let you know, but there was a huge, I think, love factor that, it was almost like, he was yelling at you, but you knew once you stepped off that court that it was all love, man. It was all love, and he would do, anything for you. And then secondly, I mentioned Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin's one of the smartest people I've ever been around in my life. He just has this unbelievable, like, this common sense, this great street sense. He's, if you ever, look at you hear about some like, piano players that just naturally pick it up, and they're just like these savants of the, music world. Well, I felt like Kenyon was that of basketball. Like, he just picked up stuff, and he would know what the other team was doing in a timeout. He would go, this guy's going to run off a double screen. He's going to fade here, and this guy's going to pop here. And we're like, what? And sure enough, he would tell them. He'd tell guys, pop out there. And sure enough, that would, what would happen. So playing with him, because people always are like, oh, he could jump high, he could block shots, he could dunk.
Sure.
They'd see all that, right? But what they didn't know was his level in basketball IQ, his level of understanding in basketball IQ were through the roof. I mean, just insane. And so, to tell you a quick story, before every game, we would have a walkthrough. Coach Huggins or whoever had the scout for that particular game would lead the walkthrough. So Coach Rod Baker was one of our assistants, or Mick Cronin, who's now the UCLA coach. He was one of our assistants. They would lead the walkthrough, and we'd run through the other team's sets, and then we would run what we're going to do against that other team. Any counters to what they do, we would kind of go through. Well, my last year, it got to the point where Kenyon was running the walkthrough.
Really?
Matt, we were in a hotel, and we were getting ready to play. I want to say like DePaul, because I remember it was really, really cold. And we were playing like DePaul, and we're in the lobby we're in a ballroom in the hotel, and the coaches had made tape with like a half court with medical tape.
Yeah.
In his ballroom, had the chairs all moved, and Kenyon's running the whole walkthrough.
Wow.
Coaches sit back, and he started doing that. I mean, that's high level.
That's next level stuff. Yeah.
That is next level.
That's a cool perspective on him, because I think because of the emotion that he would show on the court. Sometimes guys like that don't get credit for being as cerebral because they let that show outwardly. You think the guys who don't make a lot of, noise on the court as the more coaching types, but I could see that, he's a guy that Jason Kidd later loved playing with. So it makes sense that,
you talk about a match made in heaven.
No kidding.
Two high level thinkers, like Kidd's, like they always say, Jay Kidd was like 2 plays ahead.
No doubt.
Kind of like Magic was. He was like, he knew what was going to happen. And now you got another guy like Ken.
Same thing. Yeah. Yeah,
insane.
If he hadn't had to play against Shaq, that's the only problem. That's the only problem.
Have you ever seen that picture of Shaq dunking on the entire Nets team?
No, I don't think so.
Oh man, there's a picture of you can just Google Shaq dunk on the Nets, and there's Shaq's dunking it, and Kenyon's kind of towards the back, and they had this guy named what was his name? Aaron Williams.
Oh yeah.
He's pulling on Shaq's jersey, and they're 3 other guys. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, good dude.
That dude was a force. But.
He was. Well, okay. What about Jordan Brand? Because we were talking about, you got the Jordan Brand sweatshirt on right now. What was it like? Because there is this era then where the shoe companies, kind of come into their own. We just did one of our kind of sister groups did World of Five Star and was talking about how the camps had changed at that time from like the 5-star camp to Adidas and Nike. And then Jordan is kind of coming into his own as its own kind of standalone brand. And Cincinnati's kind of there at the start of that. So what was the role like in them coming in? How much fun was it to be a part of that too?
Athlete on the planet. Not only has he led the Chicago Bulls to 5 NBA championship titles, he's also an actor, an author, and now he's got his own line of clothing. Please welcome Mr. Michael Jordan.
My name is Alex Meachum, and I collect sneakers. Through the years, since age 12, I've collected Air Jordan sneakers, and I'm an avid sneaker collector, and it's led me to a lot of cool places and allowed me to meet a lot of cool people. Now I have the opportunity to have a Air Jordan sneaker be a part of a release.
Yeah. So growing up, pretty much I want to say almost my entire basketball career, other than like real early, like 8, 9, 10 years old, I wore Jordans. I played in Air Jordan sneakers.
Nice.
Black cement threes, first shoe I ever had. Or I should say, first shoe I paid for. And I just always played games. And if you look at any of my early pictures, it's Jordan. And I was collecting Jordans before it was like cool to be a collector.
Yeah.
I was doing odd jobs, and like people were spending money in my neighborhood going and buying like gear. So you ever heard of Value City?
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys ever have
Yeah,
that?
we got it. Yep.
Right. So my buddies would like cut grass, rake leaves, get money, and they go to Value City and go buy like a jean jacket and the jean pants.
Right.
Or you remember troop suits? I don't know if you remember those. LL Cool J made those famous. They were terrible. And they'd go buy like these troop suits and like all this stuff. Me, I'm going to Foot Locker, Finish Line, or whatever it is, and I'm getting Jordans.
Yeah.
And so that became, my thing. So when I do make it as a walk-on, we're still Nike, like during the off season. And I'm like, man, I've not hooped in Nike. So I'm like nervous.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I can sneak and wear some Jordans. And the trainer at the time, the guy who pretty much ran all of our gear, he was like, everyone has to be in the issued Nikes. And I'm like, oh God.
Ooh,
so they gave us these
shoes
like,
too? Oh no.
they gave us these like Pippen Air Maxes.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. Man, they were the worst. Like I was like, I will give these away to anybody that wants them. And so I have them, and I tried like playing open gyms in them, and I'm like, this is not going to work. I told my roommate, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And my roommate's like, well, you ain't going to play much anyway, so who cares? I was like, there goes your tickets to the game. So we're finishing up practice, and Hugs goes, we have a meeting in the locker room. We have a speaker coming in, and I'm like, oh Lord, because usually that means somebody got in trouble.
Yeah.
Or something happened and we're getting lectured or something. So we go in there, and there's these guys sitting there, and one of the guys is named Gentry Humphrey, and other guys his name is Will Smith, like, but not obviously the Fresh Prince, but
that'd have been really wild. What's Will Smith doing here?
Yeah, not the guy born and raised in West Philadelphia. So I'm like looking at Gentry, and I'm like, he looks familiar. So I sit down, and Kenyon Martin sits next to me in the locker room, always. And I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. And so Gentry's like, hey, my name is Gentry Humphrey. I'm the president of the Jordan brand. And I'm like, I hit him. I'm like, I've seen him in the magazines, like Slam and all that.
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, I'm Will Smith. I'm a developer for the shoes. And they're like, we're here to tell you that you are now a Jordan school.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like,
you must have thought it was like a joke or something. You're like, what?
I'm like, is this real? I'm like waiting for somebody to wake me up. So, anyway, they lay out the uniforms and they lay out the shoes, and I'm like, yo, this is insane. No. So we're the first Jordan team ever to step on the floor in college basketball wearing the Jordan uniform. So the other teams
cool.
was Cal, St. John's, and North Carolina A&T, and then us.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to play a game wearing the Jordan stuff. And then our shoes, like our team shoes weren't ready. So they sent us like, I don't even remember the name of the shoes they sent us, but they sent us these shoes. And so our team shoes weren't ready yet. And so then one day I come into the locker room and there was like 4 boxes at everybody's locker. And they were like, they weren't your normal like Jordan boxes.
Yeah.
They were like these like weird, like, you know, warehouse boxes. So I open it up, all Jordan 12s, the playoff Jordan 12s.
Nice.
They sent us like, everyone had 4 pair, and they were like, hey, you got 4. I ended up with 8 pair. And so I'm like, man, I gave a pair to like a buddy of mine. I threw a pair in the crowd after a game.
Oh my gosh.
We had that many shoes.
You're living it up.
I'm like, you know, like people throwing money in the air.
Seriously, Jordans.
So it was unbelievable. And we would go play. I've told this story many a times, but we would go play teams. We played Rhode Island with Lamar Odom and Cuttino Mobley. And I remember Cuttino Mobley saying to us, like, hey, man, I should have went to Cincinnati, man. You guys' uniforms are tough. Like, these are unbelievable. Like, Dwayne, D. Wade, and everyone's like, those uniforms are amazing. So it was unbelievable. It really was. We would walk through the airports going to games, and Huggins made us dress in all black.
Yeah.
And he had to make sure that everything had a hoodie on it too. So our coats, our sweatshirts had hoodies. So we would come through an airport. Imagine this whole Bearcat team walking through, black on black, hoodie up, just walking through.
looking like some ninjas or something.
Seriously, like Hugs wants us to have this swag, this attitude. Yeah. It was unbelievable, man.
That's so much fun for kids too. I mean, you see how you can get roped into that, and then coupled with all the other things that he's got going in, just kind of fit in lockstep, and you love it when there's that kind of synergy.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Well, give me a Cronin story, because I heard you mention his name there. I don't think I even realized. So he was an assistant coach on the team.
Yeah, he was the so he started off as when he was an assistant, I think he was the guard coach. Okay. So when we would, in practice, you break down into guards and bigs, and then you go do your like separate things. And so you do drills based on the different like plays, the sets we run. So Mick is having us, you know, run and do these sets. And for some reason, the guards had done a terrible job, and Hugs started yelling at Mick. And he kicked Mick out of the drill as a coach.
Oh, no.
And sent him down to the bigs. Have you ever seen Mick Cronin?
Yeah.
He's really short.
Yeah.
So he's down there with 6'9", Kenyon Martin, 6'10", Jermaine Tate, Bobby Brandon, Ryan Fletcher. And here you got little Mick doing the big man drills, which he could coach. But it was just kind of funny that he was down there, but Hugs was on his ass that day. And so, but I think that led to, him, learning a lot through Hugs. And then obviously he went on to coach with Pitino. And then he grinded his way up through Murray State, then became the Bearcat coach, did a phenomenal job getting us back to prominence. And then how about the run he had at UCLA?
I know.
Who would have thunk that? Weren't they in like the play-in game?
I know. Crazy. Just crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Good for him, man. He's a Cincinnati guy. So, the more successful stories out of this area, I think the better too.
No doubt. Well, I got a few other things. I really appreciate you coming on tonight, but I got a couple other topics I want to get to. So I want to talk a little bit about your stuff. So it mentions Shining Star Sports. I want to hear a little bit about that, and then give us a shout out to the podcast that you're on. I saw some of them on YouTube, some of the episodes on YouTube. Yeah.
So Shining Star Sports is my basketball program. It's 21 years, and coming up in a month. It'll be 21 years. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And we have over 30 AAU teams starting from 4th grade all the way up to 11th grade. We've put like thousands of kids in college for basketball. And then we kind of transitioned using all the AAU teams into we have an apparel side of the company where, people can buy our Shining Star gear. We have a media company, which I'll segue that into the podcast here in a second. And the great thing I think about what we do is we have opportunities for kids to come back and work in the program. So we have an internship program. We try to have about 8 interns a year. And that helps propel them to either make their resume better or get them jobs.
It's about those connections that you were talking about.
Absolutely. No question. And so when we started the media company, that kind of encompassed several things we house within the Shine One Media. One of them is the Bearcat Basketball Podcast that I actually accidentally started during the pandemic.
Yeah. That's just like us. That's what we did.
It just happened. Yeah. And so I got to grab my charger as I talk here.
Okay. Yeah, do it.
For some reason the app's like soaking my battery up. I don't want it to die on me. Yeah. So the crazy thing is when the podcast had originally started, it was basically a bunch of tweets. I was sending out all these tweets related to Bearcat basketball, and fans were like, "Hey, you need to have your own podcast because you can only send out so many tweets to kind of get your, your message across, right?"
Yeah,
and
right.
Just, so I started doing the podcast, but I think the key was, and this, like with what you guys do, it's important to find like your lane. And where you fit in the landscape of things and just be really, really good in that lane, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, how can my podcast be different than all the others? And we've got a lot of great journalists in our city, and I don't want to step on their toes. I don't want to get in their way and their lane. So I was like, nobody is interviewing all the former great players that we've had come through this school. And I have access to all these former players because I'm around. I know them. I've got numbers. And so that kind of became the deal. So I did maybe 2 podcasts in which I just talked about the Bearcat basketball team for that season, just to kind of build a base. And then I started with my first interview of a player. His name was Charles Williams, and he played for the Bearcats. He played actually with me, but he played in the years when we were Nike prior to me.
Okay.
He has absolutely fascinating stories from Compton, California. Grew up in the gang banging.
Wow.
Crips and Bloods and all that, and just a good success story. So I interviewed him, and it was a huge success. And then I interviewed another guy named Ryan Fletcher. It was a guy who threw the pass when we beat Duke in the Great Alaska Shootout. And that was a big success. And I'm like, we got something here. So that's when we found our lane. And
nice.
So I've been on the pursuit of, I think we're on episode 105, something like that we've done. And I've interviewed,
you got a bunch of people on there. I was looking through some of the people, and if people are fans of Cincinnati basketball, they're just good stories. That's what I love about podcasts, is just the opportunity to tell, little stories inside of a bigger story. And I find there's so much fun in that.
No question about that. And here's the crazy thing about it. Like, these former players, some of them have never, ever told their story. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we've got these great players. We've got great tradition, at our school. And people really don't know the full story, how they got to Cincinnati, what they've done after. And so I've kind of made it my job and mission to, help these guys get their story out a little bit more. And for some guys, they're misunderstood. May have went through, like, I interviewed Art Long, who played for the Bearcats back in the mid 90s. And, he had been through all kind of problems and issues, and just, he's back on his feet doing well. And I'm like, man, tell your story. That's bro. Cool. Like, you're not in that same space where you were, 10 years ago. You're in a good space now. Let's talk about that. That's a great story. So it's been received very well. And I hope to keep doing it and just keep telling people's story, which I truly, truly love, being able to tell stories, other people's stories, at least.
Love it. Okay, I got last two. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Name, image, likeness has been something that we've been talking about all year. So I got to get your NIL top 5 Cincinnati Bearcats. So not necessarily top 5 players. So I've heard a bunch of people have gone different ways. Like Danny Manning, he picked Wilt Chamberlain as number 1, but then I had Charlie Miller on from IU, and he picked himself as his number 1 pick. And then he went with like some singers to fill it out. So NIL, who would your top 5 Bearcats be?
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand this. So
you're like their agent, so you're gonna be like representing. You're building out your agency kind of, and you're picking guys who you're gonna be able to sign to big NIL deals. So it might be
these guys are gonna get the biggest deals.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, number 1 has to be Oscar Robertson.
Okay.
The Big O. I mean, he has just the most legendary image of him getting the rebound with his legs, spread out.
Yeah.
I would immediately take him, over to the Mercedes-Benz dealer, and we take that image and make that right.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're over there. And there's so much you can do with just the name, the Big O.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotta be an Oscar Mayer crossover there, right? Some kind of hot dog.
there you go. Some kind of cereal.
Cereal. That's even better. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Kellogg's Big O's.
Oh man, there's so many opportunities there. Then I have to say a very close second would be Kenyon Martin. I mean, just the name Kenyon Martin with K. We definitely have to go to K Martin. I mean, if Kmart, if Kmart doesn't do anything, I don't know what's going on. I think with Kenyon. So I say Oscar and then Kenyon are probably the 2 most decorated and recognizable Bearcats of all time.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into the NIL situation. They look for guys that are recognizable and fans really, really love. And me, I tell you what, man, nobody had more swag. And I put him at number 3, but he's my number 1 favorite Bearcat of all time, and that's Nick Van Exel.
Oh, nice.
Nick the Quick.
Loved Van Exel. Lefty too. I'm a lefty, so I've got a soft spot for any lefties. Yep.
Yeah, man. Nick the Quick.
Great nickname too. So that leads right into it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so much what you can do with that, and he was kind of known for he would dish out the assist. He was really. And you can go a lot with that, with a lot of companies and commercials, like, Nick could be on there, dishing out whatever at a restaurant
pizzas or
exactly.
Jiffy Lube, he'd get you out and he'd be doing an oil change.
Quick.
Yeah.
Nick the Quick. See, you and I together, bro.
That's right. That's right.
We'd be killing them. One people probably wouldn't guess, and that is a member of the Final Four team for the Bearcats. He's one of the glue members to the entire Bearcat basketball program, and that's Terry Nelson. And he currently does the color commentary for the Bearcats.
Okay.
Terry is so good at speaking and just has this presence about him. Every company in the city would love to have somebody with his mouthpiece that can just talk it up. So he would be amazing. I personally, if I had a company and Terry was playing, I'm definitely going,
Terry.
NIL deal with him. So I would probably say for my 5th and final one, I would pick, and there's several guys, but follow me when I say this.
Okay.
Because we are in Cincinnati and we're in the greater Cincinnati area, I think you have to get a hometown hero.
Okay.
A Cincinnati guy, to kind of represent, be that hometown hero. And there have been tons of guys that have played for the Bearcats. Excuse me, Bobby Brannon. You've got, Ryan Fletcher was from Middletown, which is kind of near Dayton, but Damon Flint, he was, McDonald's All-American. Yeah, for sure. Jeremiah Davenport, who's currently playing for the Bearcats. He played here for Moeller High School in Cincinnati. So I'd probably say that fifth spot would be for, a local guy.
Love it.
That hometown hero vibe.
Yeah.
And because, our city, much like, other places, but I think Cincinnati for sure, we love our own, man.
A lot of pride. Yeah.
A lot of pride in Cincinnati, man. If you come out of here and make it big or do great things, man, the city does, support and love you. So that would kind of be my take on that top five.
Love it. All right, we're gonna get you out of here on a couple quick hitters. What's the coolest arena you played in?
Freedom Hall.
Who were the
Freedom Hall?
Who were the craziest opposing fans?
UNC Charlotte. I'll tell you a story.
Okay, yeah.
Let me give you a story with both. So, Freedom Hall, Louisville was always one of our biggest rivals. And Denny Crum, who coached there for years, great coach, great person.
Yeah.
He always had them ready. And Louisville just loves their basketball, man. And Freedom Hall felt like, and Bellarmine still plays in Freedom Hall.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do. But Louisville now plays in the Yum Center.
Yeah.
But Freedom Hall, it feels like people are on top of you.
Yeah.
One year, Denny Crum's team was down, and I actually got into a game at Louisville.
Nice.
And I was like, I'm like looking around. I feel like the people that are sitting in the stands are like
gonna fall on you.
Yeah, I was like, wow. But they love. I mean, and it wasn't like they were nasty fans. They were just they love. Like you'd move and they go ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
Like you take like a step and they're like travel. I mean, they loved it, and it wasn't like a LA crowd that kind of gets in late, halftime. The place is half full because everybody's out talking. Louisville fans are there early. Don't get up at halftime and don't leave until the game's over. So Freedom Hall, second. The craziest fans, UNC Charlotte. That was probably our biggest in-conference rival because we were always battling for conference championships. And whether it was the conference tournament or even regular season, we were always battling with UNC Charlotte. They had this guard named Diego Guevara. And Diego became probably the most disliked player that the Bearcats played, like of all time. Like he's up there as like one. And I'm actually interviewing him next month for a podcast.
Oh, that's great.
And I hit him up. And he's like, we don't know each other, but like, I hit him up. I was like, I want you on my podcast.
It won't be all hate.
Yeah.
But setting me up or something.
Yeah. He was like, first of all, he asked me, was it like when I was going to do the podcast, he's like, is it like live?
Yeah.
Because he's like, because people were booming. And I'm like, no, they're not. It's not live. And people would love to kind of hear your perspective.
Oh, that would be great. You definitely should hook that up if you can.
Get a live audience.
Yeah, that's right.
Boo!
Yeah.
But he knows he's like one of the most disliked. So
that's awesome.
When he would come to Cincinnati, so here's what happened. At the time, he had a girlfriend, which I think he ended up marrying, but the like TV, ESPN or whoever it was, kind of got wind that, his girlfriend was always at the games and or fiance maybe.
Yeah.
So every time he made a 3-pointer, he'd blow a kiss to her and she would blow a kiss back.
Oh, he's asking for it.
You know how that did not go over well at our arena. So we were on his ass. So we would go to Charlotte, and I'll never forget this. We go to UNC Charlotte, and they're just Charlotte now. Yeah. But back then they were UNC Charlotte, and they were really good. They had really good players. Gosh, what was the coach's name? I can't even remember his name. So we pull up, and usually, the opposing team will get there early to shoot around, kind of get settled, and nobody's there. We're there like maybe 3 hours prior to tip. Guys got to get taped and just a whole bunch of stuff. 2.5, 3 hours, whatever. And we get there, and we come out, and we're like, what in the world? The student section's like packed. And they're like booing and yelling at us. And we're like, what in the world? Like, you've been here this whole time? And so the year prior, I wasn't on the team, but we beat them, and they threw stuff.
Oh my gosh!
Well, I wasn't on the team, but at the Bearcats.
Yeah.
So the year I was there, we beat them on their home court, and they start throwing stuff. Well, my teammates got the basketballs that were for warm-ups and started unloading them on fans, like hitting them in the face. And the fans stormed the court.
Oh my god!
And we're like running us off the court. We're like literally running
out of here.
It was crazy.
That is crazy.
They were
no love lost there.
Man, I was like, man, I don't ever want to go back. And I'll tell you a funny thing. Guy I went to high school with, he signed a full scholarship to play soccer there.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we went to Charlotte, I would always go up in the stands and say what's up to him.
Jeez.
And he was
asking for it. Yeah, you're gonna get him beat up.
I was like, I think we gotta have
we'll see it after you after the game.
Yeah, he don't want to be because they're all now looking at him like, what's up, bro?
Yeah, right.
Man, I'm about to whoop his ass.
Yeah. Watch out for flying objects, huh?
Oh man, they will throw stuff.
That's
but I tell you, let me. Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, you go, man. This is great.
Xavier, the crosstown shootout.
Yeah,
is the
as a casual fan of both teams, that's one I tune in. Like when I circle that on my calendar because there's always I love those type of rivalries.
Aaron, it is real. That game is real. There's a real dislike, and it's gotten to the point though where it's like, I think the dislike is not where it used to be because there was a big brawl.
Yeah,
which you probably remember or saw between Xavier and UC. It was when it was at Xavier. Even prior to that, like Hugs got into it with the time Pete Gillen was the head coach of Xavier, and they got into it after the game, didn't shake hands. And there's just been stories after stories of, how each players, like the players didn't like each other, and that was real. Fans didn't like each other. But now people, I think, more on the mutual respect level, but I tell you, man, they get after it on Twitter though. I tell you,
is that a parts of the city thing, like where Cincinnati's located as opposed to Xavier, or private school, public school type thing, or what?
So our city's very it's divided into you've got the east side, you've got the west side of town, which are two completely separate mentalities. Not to say one's better than the other, but people be like, hey, I'm from the west side,
right?
And I'm no, I'm from the east side. It's a different mentality. I'd say the pockets of our city that have more of the Catholic roots and Catholic schools are more leaning towards Xavier, because Xavier's a Catholic school.
Sense.
And a lot of the public school area kids are more UC.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say, in UC's, I'd probably say there's more Bearcat fans in Cincinnati than Xavier. And I don't mean to take a shot at Xavier, but the reality is we have a football team too.
Right.
So
that matters these days.
that matters, right? And it's just it is what it is. So even if Xavier, beat us this year, or even, they're kind of winning the rivalry over, whatever they say, 5 or 7 year span, even if they're doing that, we are still looked at as the bigger brand, just because of the combination of basketball and football, in our city. So
I think you might have the uniform win too. So I don't know, even those new retro uniforms that they're about to wear, those look pretty nice. Yeah, that looks pretty nice.
Yeah, what's funny about that? So gosh, I forget how many years ago it was. Gosh, I wish I had that. If I had that picture, it was up in one of my rooms. I wish I had that. So they had us my senior year. We came out for Midnight Madness, preseason basketball, and they had like all of us wearing. Okay, I know what it was. So it was my. I take that back. It wasn't my senior. It was my first year that we went to Jordan. So they wanted to kind of do like a history of UC uniforms.
Okay.
So they found like all these old uniforms, and they had us wearing like, you know, and I'm like, the one that said the Cats.
Yeah.
My teammate DeJuan Baker was wearing that. And there were a couple others. I'm like, why have we not like retro these?
Yeah.
And I've been screaming that for years. Like, we've got to retro some of these like forgotten years, because that's kind of like a forgotten uniform. I'm like, those will go over really well. So I'm so glad
it's gonna
that
cool.
They were able to make it happen. Like I've been screaming that. Like there's another Cincinnati uniform.
Yeah.
Yo, it is wild, dude. Like. I don't know how it's like. I can't even explain how like Cincinnati's like written out on it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they almost made a mistake. But I always tell people like those would be so dope to redo.
You might have to give me a picture of these, because we might be able to make this happen.
I will.
Okay.
I will. I'm gonna look it up here in a minute. My buddy like he's like a historian of sports stuff. And he started sending me all these images like, have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen this? And I'm like, yo, I've never seen that Bearcat uniform. And there's like one Cincinnati uniform. I can't remember exactly the story. I have to send you the article where like the uniforms were like worn for like a couple games and they've never been seen since.
Weird.
There's like
That's
this
crazy.
like aura behind them. I got to figure out which ones they are, but those things have to like come back.
I know,
right?
Yep. Let's make it happen. That's what this is all about, is telling those stories of those universities.
And tell me about the Bearcat gear that you guys.
Yeah, so there's we've got several pairs of shorts that we've released, but the ones that are coming out this week are just a practice jersey, and then we've got quarter zips. So the quarter zips are in. So we've got a quarter zip. They look kind of like the warm up uniform, so you'll recognize it because they're patterned off the warm up uniform from those years. So
that's dope.
It's pretty fun, and it just, we circle back to the stories. So. Well, hey,
I love it.
Hey, I'm gonna get you out of here. I appreciate your time tonight, and hopefully you'll come back on. Maybe we can talk like go through a game. We love doing like a game recap. So it could be fun to just talk a single game and break down a game, because you could give us that perspective from the sideline, or even one you got in would be great.
Anytime you want, man. I love telling stories and just chopping it up, man, with good people. So
thank you for listening to the 19-9 podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do. And while you're at it, leave us a rating or review. 5 stars only, like the basketball camp. We also have links to all of 19-9 social media, so you never miss a release. Until next time.
Get that education too, man. That's what it's about. Not a lot of people say they can go to school for free. You know what I'm saying? Get education, so take advantage of it, man. I'm saying it comes and goes quick. You know what I'm saying? You come in and before you know it, you're on your way out.